Elon Musk is cutting social security. Rachel Reeves was originally going to go after PIP payments, but it now looks like they've doubled down after a cabinet meeting in which there was apparently a little row. There was some contesting between a few cabinet ministers and the Prime Minister. All of this speculation, by the way, was quelled by Wes Streeting over the weekend, who, during an interview with Laura Kuenssberg, said multiple times that he didn't even know what the policy was on cutting welfare and it was total rubbish and that actually no one had even spoken about it in cabinet.
There's now other briefing, including to us here at the BBC, that you've given up on that idea because some people in the Labour Party are too worried about it. Essentially, you'd be taking money from some of the most vulnerable people.
Well, I think the moral of the story is don't rely on briefing and speculation. Let's wait for the plans. So you're not going to do this? I haven't seen the full plans, in all honesty. I haven't seen the full plans. They haven't come to Cabinet yet. Can you confirm that this is not going to happen? You are not going to freeze PIP payments? Well, I haven't seen the proposals, but I think you've seen the briefing, you've seen the speculation. I think the moral of the story is wait for the plans, because of course we need to make sure we've got to make sure the welfare system is sustainable. There are 1,000 people signing on to PIP every single day. Mm-hmm. Those 3 million people who are shut out of the labour market because of long-term illness, I mean, that's a population the size of Greater Manchester. So you can see the scale of the problem. Which is weird because I did speak to someone who was in the cabinet meeting who told me that there had been.
It's sound like West Streeting, isn't it? Wouldn't lie.
But I don't know, maybe the person who said that to me, maybe they lied.
Maybe they were lying. Maybe they're both lying.
Do you think Starmer would lie to you?
It was Keir. Yeah.
I thought this was really interesting because I was talking to another Labour advisor, they're not a backbench advisor, last week, and he pointed out to me that he'd contacted the Commons Library, the House of Commons Library, to ask them if there would needed to be a procedural vote. Could she just cut PIP payments without it actually having to go to a vote? And then that has sort of played out really interestingly in the last few days because Labour MPs have suddenly realised that they may have to actually walk through the division lobby. Ooh. So they may actually have to, instead of being able to just sort of hide under the shadow of Rachel Reeves making a cut, they would actually have to walk through the yes or no lobby on cutting disability payments. Yeah. And that has shifted the dial.
And that would be interesting for the next election if there's going to be more independent candidates standing in their constituencies. People, potential independent alliance members standing to, we saw people from the Workers' Party and the Green Party doing pretty well, almost unseating West Streeting, for instance, having a big billboard that says this person voted for cuts to disabled people isn't a great look.
Massively, and particularly in the context of a resurgent Atlanticist, nationalist, populist right. There we go. Fucking hell, that's a way to describe a political grouping, where people like Steve Bannon on Gavin Newsom's podcast are very pro Medicaid, are very pro social security, and actually one of the great sort of battles going on within the MAGA movement is between the sort of more tech bro libertarians like Musk who want to cut these type of programs and nationalist populists like Bannon who understand that MAGA voters are on social security and cutting those programs. That's going to be a big fight within the MAGA movement. I think that's relevant because increasingly the way to understand, in my opinion, this nationalist populist right shift of which you would look to probably bracket reform within, it is increasingly a cohesive movement and an international movement. And I think if the Labour Party cuts, for example, PIP payments, other forms of disability benefit, it's something that reform could. I'm not saying they will, because I think Farage's Thatcherite tendencies not traditionally aligned in this way, but if reform does sort of pivot to that nationalist populist way a lot more, that is something that they could really make a lot of hay on, attacking Labour over.
There's an argument there, though, that Rachel Reeves' economic policy has gone to the right of Thatcher, because Thatcher might have closed the mines, but she did at least let people go on the dole. Whereas Rachel Reeves is like,
no dole.
Nothing.
Can I have a job? No.
The line is totally inconsistent, though, because the programme that they've been presenting to us for the last couple of months has been like, we want to get people back into work and we want to help people get back into work. Taking away someone's accessibility car, I would argue, would prevent them from getting into work. So it doesn't quite add up, right?
Yeah.
If you want to make it easier, there are a lot of people who are on, say, prescription medicines who don't feel that they can go into work, and Labour wanted to offer them job coaches and they wanted to offer them therapy to get, to help them get back into the workplace. If you cut all of the support before they're, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
What are they going to do in the interim?
Quite heterodox. Previously we had tax and spend, now we have tax and cut. It's an interest. It's in the same way, actually, the sort of Trumpian new paradigm.
May I make a point with the car?
Yeah.
You don't need the car to go to work now. Thanks to the marvels of modern technology, anyone can be a productive worker with just a headset and an internet connection.
Plug in, baby.
No, you don't worry, guys. You don't need the car to be a productive member of society, to be a cog in the capitalist machine. Don't worry. You can be part of a wonderful service economy. That'll be fulfilling.
So do you think instead of a car, they should just provide people with like a nice gaming chair?
Snacks.
Turtle
High-speed
beaches.
broadband.
But again, do you know what's interesting about what you just said? I know you were making a joke there, but that is actually the point, because about all these lines being inconsistent and the web or the myriad of total dichotomies, because Labour have sort of followed down the same path as the Jacob Rees-Mogg. We don't want you working from home. We'd like you back in the office to stimulate the economy and growth. But also, we're not going to help you get there anymore. So you should probably just work from home. If you have a disability, why do you need to go outside when you can just work from home? But also, you should not be working from home. You should be working from the office. Yeah. How on earth is PrEP going to function if you're sitting on your fat arse, not working?
There's oxygen inside in there.
You either log onto the company portal and work on a remote desktop, or you're watching YouTube, but you do not go outside. The fresh air is not for you.
If I see you outside, I will set an XL billy on you.
Do you know what? They could just sort of take people's brains out, couldn't they, and put them in jars? Maybe that would work instead.
They'd love that.
Yeah.
This has turned very quickly into something I abhor. Of just being like, well, this is Starmer's plan. It's to make us all brains.
There's a Treasury advisor right now writing all of this down. Gaming chairs.
Quiet bat people, secret bat people. We only have a minute left of the episode.
Oh, I feel I was here for 5 minutes of this.
Yeah, you were in flying visit. The Flying Campbell, the Flying Scotsman.
Would you be interested in another observation that this Labour backbencher gave me last week that I actually probably should have talked about at the time and I forgot?
Can't wait for this.
He said to me he wasn't actually sure that they were going to pursue the PIP cuts, because he thought at that moment in time the spending review already had gone off to the Office of Budget Responsibility. So the savings wouldn't have been factored in. So he said either the savings had come back from the OBR and there wasn't enough, they'd miscalculated, or this was almost like a sort of shadow creep. It was like, let's say something truly abhorrent, let's leak something truly abhorrent so that it sort of covers up the rest of the cuts that we're going to do. And then then they could cancel it and say it was all speculation and it was never actually going to happen. And they could hide under the cloak of darkness.
Media management. Yeah. Quite possibly.
Did you find any of that interesting?
I did, yeah, it was interesting. Yeah.
Would it be nice to have heard it last week?